Good morning, everyone. I'm assuming everyone is here to listen to our presentation on making your market customer friendly. It is 10 o'clock, but I see people are still in the process of logging in, so we're going to give them just a couple more minutes. So sit back and relax. We'll be with you shortly. Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Diane Eggert. I'm with the Farmers Market Federation. We're hosting today's webinar on making your market customer friendly. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping things. First off, everyone is in listen only mode, and we're going to keep it that way so that our speaker is not, he can concentrate on his presentation and not listen to crying babies and barking dogs and such. And also it makes it easier for everyone to hear everything clearly. If you have a question, we encourage you to type them into your question or chat box, and periodically our speaker will pause and ask for questions. The questions will be read aloud, and then everyone will be able to hear both the question and our speaker's response to those questions. So as we're going through the presentation, when a question comes to you, please type it into the box. We'll make sure you get your answers. And with that, we're going to get started. So welcome everyone. Today's presentation, Making Your Market Customer Friendly, will be given to us by Jim Farr. Jim is the director of the City of Rochester Public Market, a very large market, very successful market in the City of Rochester. Jim has been very active in farmers market organizations, both statewide and nationally. He's also done some traveling overseas to different markets and conferences, and brings with him a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and he's very willing to share it with us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
Thanks, Diane, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here this morning. It's always kind of tough. Diane and I were talking before we started. It's giving a presentation like this without an audience and staring at a screen is kind of odd and a little more difficult, I think, than actually having folks there and feedback. And so I encourage you, like Diane said, to please type in some questions, because I want to make sure that what we're covering is information that's important to you. And Diane, every now and then, if I just keep rambling on, just tap the mic or something and tell me to stop for a minute so we can do some questions. But I'm very happy to be here today, and I think this is a very timely topic, as most of you probably know, and as we just discussed the other day and had a presentation on at the annual meeting of the Farmers Market Federation in New York. After many years of unprecedented growth and expansion, farmers markets, public markets are in the United States are starting to see some signs of a couple things, maybe overexposure, overgrowth for one thing, but also there's a lot of competition out there today for the dollars that buy fresh fruits and vegetables and other farm market products. So hopefully some of the things we talk about that we're doing in Rochester and have been done at other markets will be replicable things that you can do at your market too. And although, our market every market is different. I mean, you've heard it said, and Diane and I say it all the time, when you've seen one market, you've seen one market. But there's still enough commonalities that I think, I hope everyone will gain something from today's presentation. And I'd also like to recognize Evan Lowenstein, who's our marketing and communications person at the Rochester Public Market. And he helped with it took most of the photos in here and helped with putting together a lot of the material. So enjoy, and hopefully we'll have some good questions. So, when you think about making your market customer friendly, it means different things to different people. For some people, it's value. It's a good value. For some people, it's variety and choice. For some people, it's service and information, or ease of parking, amenities and comfort, and facilities. All those things go into making a market customer friendly. And as I talked about before, there's so much competition out there. And when you look at huge retailers like Tops and Whole Foods and others that are challenged by the new ways people are buying groceries, buying produce, it's little wonder that there's some strain on our market systems. And part of it is perhaps oversaturation. In Monroe County alone last year, there were 27 farmers markets. And, Monroe County has about 750,000 people. There's a question of, what is oversaturation? How many markets are too many? And how many farmers are out there that are actually can service those markets and be part of those markets to make those good, strong markets. So that's one thing. But then you have big box and other stores that are doing a great job selling produce. I mean, it used to be that it was produce was the lowest. Some stores even a loss leader. They didn't put a lot of emphasis on the quality of their produce, the variety of their produce. Now Walmart, Price Right, Costco, all these stores they have produce. They have inexpensive produce. They have good produce. So I mean, it's not as though people have to come to the markets to get their produce. My daughter does the Blue Apron baskets, the meal order kits, and they're proliferating as well. So there's other choices. There's online choices. The gluts of grocery stores in and around most of our metro areas. And of course, as it says on there, Amazon. And Amazon, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what Amazon and Walmart and how their online sales and their online delivery services and their Amazon Fresh and the merger with Whole Foods and all those things impact the whole food system. So it's not, that farmers markets and buying direct is not still very popular, but there's so much competition, and then that's not even talking about new ways to shop at farmers market, not new ways, but CSAs and all the other and all the other combinations out there. So when you talk about what is customer friendly and what makes a place customer friendly, we may think of it at our market a little differently. And I tell the story, markets have to be a place that's an experience, and they don't necessarily have to be the easiest place to get to, the less crowded place to get to. There's a market in Rochester that was a very popular downtown market that was in a location that parking wasn't good, the restrooms weren't good, but the market had a certain charm, a character, It had businesses close by that people could go to and frequent while they were at the market. They moved the market to another location, which was in a beautiful park setting with plenty of parking and right on the river, and you would think would be a perfect spot for a market, and it's struggled. So you know, the right combination of factors that make a market successful or make a site or make a place successful aren't always as simple as you might think. Our view of customer friendly is not so much about the ease of parking. It's not so much about convenience and comfort. And it's not so much at all about gentrifying the marketplace. In fact, we just went through a recent renovation, and that was one of the biggest fears that folks had, that we were going to gentrify and outprice ourselves and really change the market. And it's not about just focusing on value either. And I know it's different from depending on the size of your market. We have a lot of different price points at our market. I know a lot of the smaller markets tend to have a higher price point, but all in all, it's still there's still a good value, and that's not really the most important reason people come to markets. Diane, should I just keep going? Any?
No questions yet.
All right.
Keep in mind, everyone type those questions in as we're going through.
Okay. So, you know, our view at our market of being customer friendly, and what I tell the vendors all the time is that, you know, to compete, if people have to change. It's not 30 years ago. It's not even 20 or 15 years ago when we had droves of people coming to the market, and markets were the hottest thing going. We need to change. We need to update. We need to evolve with the whole system and the food system as our distribution channels change. And again, I know I harp a lot on experience, but any of the work that's been done around survey work around markets, it's always, experience is always like 1, 2, or 3 with wanting to buy local and support local economy and drawing directly from the farmers and the experience. It's always one of the top 3 reasons nationally and internationally why people actually come to market. So, you know, what we focus on is providing meaningful, memorable, rich, exciting, endearing experience. It's about providing a sense of place. There's this whole concept of a third place where people from all walks of life can come and experience things together. And the third place is kind of a place where people go, their first place is their home, or their workplace and home can be first and second, depending on how much time you spend in each and what your connection is to each. But after that, everyone needs this third place, a place where they can get out, where they can socialize, where they can experience diversity, and where they can really experience life. So it's about, we try to provide this diversity and quality, and it's quality of products, it's quality of people, it's quality of offerings, and it's quality of opportunities and experiences. So to do this, we try to provide a unique collection of qualities and characteristics, visual qualities, cultural, social, and environmental, that provide meaning, that provide focus to a location. On this one of the slides there, you can see our gateways, and those were added in a project in the late 1990s. And when we built those gateways, they were quite controversial. A lot of our longtime vendors realized that we had a lot of infrastructure and other problems at the market that needed to be repaired, and they said, well, why are you wasting money on those gateways? But those gateways, our whole idea was to express a sense of place, a sense that you've arrived somewhere special, and they've become iconic now to the market and are really, really one of the symbols of the market, and people, you know, can't imagine the market without them now. But at the time when we built those gateways, it wasn't the most popular decision we ever made. And what makes places special, it's different, you know, all over the place. You see the Quincy Market here, we see a park space, we see Boston's, you know, Fenway Park. Again, it's a place it's hard to get to, it's not convenient. It's you know, you would think if a designer designed that, they would probably say that space will never work. That the one market in the middle there is a market in Siberia. It's in the coldest city, over 50,000 in the world or something, and the temperature is -50, but people are still out at a market. So it's sense of place is more powerful and magnetic than convenience and comforts. And I think that's something that I feel is important. Project for Public Spaces and a lot of other folks have done a lot of work on it. And I think that, this view of the third place and really community building and social surroundings that separate the first place and the second place, like I talked about. Ray Oldenburg, in his book, The Great Good Place, argues that third places are essential for civil society, democracy, civic engagement, and establishing feelings of a sense of place. So, just on the photos there, you can see some just people not necessarily purchasing anything at the market, but just experience the space, outside eating, on our market tram system, sitting out and having coffee in front of the bakery. It's just, that feeling of place, that feeling of being together. It's, and the diversity of products, people, offerings, and opportunities, all those things help to build this sense of place. There's Project for Public Spaces did some work several years ago and talked about you need 10 things to make a good, exciting public space, 10 different experiences that people can have while they're there. And markets, of course, are one of the best places to provide this diversity, these options for people to experience. So just, everything from the products, I mean, what could be more diverse, what could be more exciting than some of the displays of products that we have at our markets. Again, the products and we're very fortunate here in Western New York to be in a region where we have, a lot of people think that more southern climes have some advantage of us with some of the things that they can grow, but we can grow during our season. We can grow things that few other areas in the United States can grow and provide the diversity. Here in Michigan, some of the areas in Michigan and around the Great Lakes are some of the most fertile and some of the best farmland in the country. The young man on the far left of the screen, his name is Alex Flowers, and Alex is a farmer that from Sodus, New York, and he comes in with some of the most diverse stuff. He just had birch twigs. He'll have all kinds of things that people don't generally use. He's a very old school farmer and gatherer, so he'll bring all kinds of natural products too, and teach people how to make tea out of birch and all kinds of interesting things. And that's what people come to the market for. You can't get that at Walmart. Again, products, diversity, breads, bakeries. Look at all the different types of pumpkins and hot sauces, and all that stuff is just unique to our markets and helps make them places that people want to come and in places that are customer friendly. Again, our market, we happen to have also general merchandise items, and when we pick vendors on our market, it's always farmers first and then other foods and then arts and crafts, but we also have some general merchandise vendors. So we do have some products that are different maybe than a lot of other markets, but we also have locally fermented products and especially squashes, all kinds of garlic, and all the markets have, I know, their special vendors and their special products that help to make them the places that they are. And then people make a market. These are some of our vendors at the Rochester Public Market, and we have folks from all different cultural backgrounds that provide the diversity and provide the excitement that we want to have in our market, from Amish families to our friend Reverend Moss, who's 90 years old and is a preacher from Bermuda. So, just all kinds of different races, cultures, diversity between shoppers and vendors. The view of the looking down the main shed, the A shed in the market on a busy Saturday morning on the far left, just shows you some of the number of people and the diversity and the things that are going on. And again, vendors, all times of the year, all kinds of characters that frequent the market, but add to that sense of place and add to that third place. We also offer a lot of different events and programs that help to supplement what we're doing at the market. And again, we're fortunate to live in an area where there's a lot of different not-for-profits, and we have a lot of entertainers and other folks that are looking to do things. But on a small scale, any of these things can be replicated. I stand convinced that any market can be more customer friendly and more interesting through offerings for all the senses that I've been putting here. We have a lot of food and drink choices. You don't want to be overwhelmed with food and drink choices. It's one of the problems the Lexington market in Baltimore is going through right now. They're in the midst of a reorganization and a reconstruction, and over the years they have become almost entirely a food court. And so you have to make sure that you keep the mix between prepared foods and other foods. But to have prepared foods is very important. If you're in a downtown area or in an area where there's other businesses, I think that's a big plus. I would highly recommend it. You may think that it's most convenient to be in a big open field somewhere, but to have other businesses that can both benefit from the traffic and customers can use is also a great thing. And we have some retail and specialty businesses. We also do a lot with special guests. We have a whole special guest program where folks can sign up to have a table, not in the selling space, but we have an area around the office where special guests can come in from not-for-profits for the most part that want to get their word out to the public. We do a lot of special events. We do some art and performance, and we have some fairly unique transportation and access offerings that I can talk about as well.
Shall we field a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay, one person types in, I'm more likely to need to ungentrify our market. We've got the privileged locals, and that's a large portion of the community. So this person is most interested in drawing in those folks who think the market is too expensive or don't feel welcome. So do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, if you don't do SNAP, I would recommend that that's one thing to look at, because it's not, it's a myth that SNAP recipients live just in the cities and the large urban areas. There's actually not the same number, but a higher proportion of folks that have economic challenges in rural locations than there is in the city. So I mean, adding SNAP would be part of it. We don't do anything to control prices at our market. I know some markets they're not control is a bad word, but or set prices or look at bottom prices or anything. I mean, we let competition set the scale, which it's good and can be challenging too. But I think that's another thing to think about. It is, some markets do have that, but even with maybe a somewhat higher price point, you can still, I think, demonstrate the value of the market, but it's tough. I mean, we do a lot with our local food bank, FoodLink, that does local tastings and does some food demos and shows people the value that they can get at the market versus what they can get in the grocery store. But especially if you're buying the products that are not manipulated or pre-cut in any way. I mean, there's Wegmans are geniuses. When I go in there and I see the zucchini spiraled and up and sold for $4.50, where it would be 50 cents or $1 at our market in season. So, I mean, that's some of the ideas. Maybe I'll cover some more in the presentation.
Okay, the next question is there any training or advice that you can give to vendors to welcome new customers, and especially those who are participating in Fmnp or SNAP? So from the vendor's perspective.
We're constantly working with our vendors to try to get them to improve their displays. Actually, Evan's working this year on a signage program where we're going to some signs that'll be erasable whiteboards that'll look the same and have the vendor's name on the top of them, where they can put specials and items on them every day. We have vendors, and I'm sure you all have them in your markets too, that are doing very, very well, that do very well with the SNAP and Fmnp customers. But it's because they're progressive. They're looking at what people want. They're thinking ahead and trying to anticipate anticipate consumer demand. You know, it's just this week, and Diane and I were talking about it before. One of the vendors at the Syracuse market, Guy Vasca, passed away, and Guy was like at Syracuse, he was a legend because he would look at what the customers wanted, and he would look ahead in trends, and then he would provide that, and then he would have nutritionists and other people coming to him to demonstrate and show what they could be done with the different varieties of squash or the different varieties of tropical things that he was bringing for new populations that were coming to the market. And those are the ones that are successful. I spoke at the Cornell Cooperative Extension in Monroe County meeting not too long ago, and we talked about the same thing about markets having some issues and how do we keep people coming and the changing of the market. One thing that I think is universal, and whether you're from an FMP or SNAP or you're a gentrified money consumer, is that consumers are much more educated than they were 15 years ago. And the young people, just one of the vendors was saying it to me yesterday, the young people come to the market, they come for the experience, but they know what they want, and they'll pay for it and buy it. So you can't, folks that are depending on what happened 30, 20 years ago when people would come and buy huge flats of this and huge flats of that, and weren't as concerned about quality and weren't concerned about varieties and those things. Those days, I think, are gone. I mean, they may come back again, but right now, we're moving towards a different thing, and people won't buy crap anymore. They want good product. And so, all right, I'll stop rambling there.
Okay, we have another question. We just started our winter market this year in Lockport, and it's gone over tremendously well, but for a couple of months in the winter, it looks slim on produce because 4 out of 25 vendors we have were produce. Any ideas what they could, well, let's see, and their offerings were limited. Okay, so do you have any idea how we can help those vendors succeed in a winter market as well as for us to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, we're not entirely a producer-only market in Rochester, so it's, our challenges are similar but not quite the same, because we do allow some shipped-in product, and we have resellers that have that year-round, so it adds some other thing. But we do have more and more people that, we're very fortunate in Rochester, New York, to have Intergrow, or in Western New York to have Intergrow and some of these other large greenhouse operations that are growing peppers and tomatoes and stuff most of the year. Some of them shut down from mid-December to mid-January just because of the lack of sunshine. And there's so many storage crops. Small World that's at our market, it has carrots and beets and potatoes and of course squash. And I mean, all this stuff. And they also do a lot of fermented products. And jams and jellies and honey, which, honey's one of the world's longest lasting products. I think they found it in mammoth fossils, but whatever. And it never goes bad. So, I mean, there's things that you can do, and then maybe add some other vendors, not so much produce vendors in the wintertime, but allow some other vendors to come that you wouldn't perhaps allow in the summer. Maybe you bring some arts and crafts vendors in the wintertime, or do some other things to just add some more interest to it.
Okay, we have one last question and then we'll get back to the presentation. This person says they've done a great job of creating experience at their market, but they're concerned that it doesn't necessarily translate into sales for vendors. We don't want, obviously, people to just come, listen to the music and then leave. And we're worried about, that kind of an impact on our farmers. So with all these events that you do, how do you make sure that that translates into sales for the farmers at your market?
Well, it is a trade-off. It's not a trade-off, but it can be seen by some folks. If you're bringing people to the market, are they necessarily buying more? I still think there's a pretty direct correlation between people coming and people buying. If people come to the market, they're almost invariably going to walk out of there with something. And if that's the first time they experience the market and they bring stuff back and talk to other folks about it, it's going to bring more people there too. I agree with you that you don't want the entertainment, you don't want all the other distractions to become something that overwhelms the buying, the main idea of the market, and that's for people to purchase. And we don't. That's a couple of reasons why we don't allow any of the street entertainers. We don't allow the special guests. We don't any other commercial or other people that we might have there. They have to have a product to sell to be under the sheds. We don't even allow, because we're a public facility, we have the freedom of speech limitations on us, so that folks are allowed, politicians, religious, whatever, and come on grounds, but we don't allow them in the selling spaces, and we don't allow them to interfere with that. Again, a lot of it's the individual vendors and how well they market their product too. And if you have these bodies here, then it's up to them. I mean, all we can do is bring bodies, and hopefully we're helping to do that. But the vendors then have to help us by selling themselves and by really selling their products. So, it's a balancing act. I agree.
Okay, so anyhow, I think we can go back to the presentation.
Yeah, and again, here I'll go ahead, Diane.
No, I was just going to say that I think is the last question for now, so we can go back to your presentation.
How are we doing on time, Diane?
You're at 10:30.
Okay. So again, we're looking this. I'm not going to dwell on this a lot, but we're fortunate to have businesses around our market. And our market, we've still a lot of the things that are going on in the market district and on the market itself help us to keep the prices affordable for the vendors that are there every day. We do a lot of special events, and I'll talk about some of them later, that bring people to the market. But those special events all make revenue for the market and help to offset the overall cost structure that we have. So, and even having, on the one slide, you see the restaurant Fiorella's. Fiorella's is a Italian restaurant now that's been at the market for about 4 years. That's open in the evening, Wednesday through Sunday, for dinners, open for lunch. We have a couple others, and we have some other in the district. The market coming up Railroad Street, just outside of the market gates. There's a number of clubs and a brewery and Black Button Distillery, so that it's really becoming the place to be. Which the revenues that are generated to the market through some of those businesses, and for instance, Fiorella's says we don't own the building, but they pay for use of the parking lot and security and other services that the market provides. Helps us to keep the fees, the market license fees for our farmers and our other vendors still very affordable, which is very important. Again, I'm not going to talk about every one of these, but we have an art studio now, Small Fry, that is open on market days and other times too, and it's something for kids to do when they're at the market. You can take your kids up there. It's $10, and they can stay for an hour and do all kinds of arts and crafts projects, and just all kinds of ideas where folks can come and try something out without a huge overhead investment, and hopefully function and come ahead as a business. I talked about the special guest program. This is something that Evans Lowenstein, again, our communications person and head of is in charge of, and it has been very successful. And this is nothing new. I mean, you all do food demos. We're actually in the process in our new structure that we build of building an indoor kitchen, which we'll hopefully have open this summer or late summer, and be able to even expand our offerings more on what we can do with food demos. But we work very closely with Food Link, and we had a whole project with the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle where we featured, you can see the ladies from the Turkish Cultural Society, where we featured each one of it. The city's got like 13 sister cities, so we featured each month we featured one of our sister cities and doing cooking demos that were culturally appropriate for them. And of course, the Rochester Fire Department and the Fire Smokehouse. Again, we work with the library in our office. We have a one of the small mobile libraries, but we also have free books in the office. We gave away last year over 10,000 books that were donated to the library or were no longer good enough shape to be in circulation. People love it. when they come in the office or when they come in and for their EBT transactions, the kids take books with them. They have I can't remember what that conversation room was, but again, it's just anything that's interesting and brings diversity. And then we do a whole series of special events. And not all markets have a permanent site, so I know it's not the same for every market, but we've had, again, one of the challenges they challenged me with when I first took over the market was because it's 9 acres, and now we've got another 6, so like 15 acres in the middle of the city, that we should use it for more than just a traditional Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday market days, because it's a great asset of the cities and we should be able to get some more value out of it. So we started, we do the mini markets, do some special horticultural days in the spring. We do the Flower City Market Days we do 5 Sundays in May, and then we do we're open the whole Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of Memorial Day weekend with flowers and bedding plants and anything that relates to gardening. We do in the 20th year, it'll be this year, for our evening concert series, Bands on the Bricks, and that was instituted again to bring people to the market, but to bring people there that maybe hadn't been there in a long time. There's a whole generation that grew up in the suburbs that's not as used to coming to downtown markets, and so we wanted to get those folks back down there for concerts, and then hopefully they come back and become regular shoppers and see that it's a safe place and a fun place and a place that's changed over the years. And garage sales, a lot of folks do these super fleas on Sundays. Many of these are Sunday events. We started the food truck rodeos. I think this is the 6th or 7th year, and those have been last Wednesday of every month. We do them in the good weather, and they've been very, very popular. We have usually draw between 7,500 and 9,000 people and 40 trucks or so. We just started 2 years ago a free Halloween Eve event. We invited not-for-profits from around the city in the region to come to the market, and we offered that they could hand out information about their organization, but also bring some treats or an activity for the kids. And so we were very fortunate the first year to have 60 not-for-profits participate, and we had about 3,500 kids come. And last year we had closer to 5,000. So it's a great, folks are looking for fun, safe, free activities for their family. And we do 3 Sundays, actually 4 Sundays now before the holidays. When we open on Sundays, we have a lot of our regular vendors, and this year, since we have some new indoor space, we also opened our indoor specialty food vendors at the same time. And it was just another opportunity for folks to experience the market. Artists Row, the Friends of the Market, every year do an affordable art show that's on a Sunday. It's actually, if you're familiar with the Clothesline show at the Memorial Art Gallery in Rochester, it's a Sunday afterwards. And the Memorial, it's a great show, the Clothesline show, but it's $500 or $600 to be an entrant there. Their show is $40, so it's really a spot where emerging artists can come and show their wares, and it's been great. We've been, for the last few years, also partnering with Zion Church for a Gospel Jubilee, which is a great Sunday event, and we have a biking movie and Flicks on the Bricks. These are just, like I said, I know it's hard in some markets. Many markets don't have permanent facilities, but these are just some ideas. We also have a whole buskers, street performers. And again, I know some markets are very hot on this. The city market in Kansas City does a great job with street performers. The Ferry Terminal Market out in San Francisco does a great job. Other markets see this as one of the questioners said earlier, is it could be a distraction. But again, we don't have them in the sales area. We have them in other areas, but all kinds, anything from singers. This young man for $1 will write a story about you on an old typewriter, and jugglers. And then we encourage art around the market too. Our bike parking on the right-hand side there we had a local metal artist do a bicycle that could go on top so people would know where the bike parking was. We've had a couple projects. The Discovery Charter School made some tiles that represented the market. We have a big mural project in Rochester, and a lot of the murals are in the market neighborhood and area. But we do think about, transportation and how people are going to get to markets. We've added some parking. We've added, we actually in the middle, you can see we, several years ago, maybe 10 now, we bought an old CSX railroad right away that used to be how the rail cars delivered produce to the market and was no longer being used. We bought the bridge and actually converted it into a pedestrian and shuttle access from some off-site parking that we have available. We have a real popular bike to the market program. We bill it as the best parking at the market. And we have about 400 people that are involved in that. They get the sticker to put on their helmets. If they come and send a Facebook picture of their helmet and with the date on it that they were there, they're entered into a drawing for market gift tokens. And every week we have a drawing for $25 in market gift tokens. And it's alternative transportation. It's a thing of the future. I tell people that I actually believe there's going to be a transformation in transportation that's going to come much quicker than folks think. And the parking is not necessarily it's important, but it's not the thing that determines whether a place is a good special place or whether your market's going to last, work, or be successful. One of the most, if you're familiar with Rochester, one of the most popular retail strips in the city, Park Avenue, has almost no parking, and still, people are flocking to it. So, and we want to provide opportunities for customers and vendors. And for customers, we want to provide a huge variety of vendors and products, prepared food options, activities, events, and experiences. But for vendors, we also want to provide low-cost, low-risk opportunities to purvey and test products and customer service sales skills. We have an easy access to a large, diverse, and enthusiastic crowd. We like to have, at our market, we're fortunate enough to have open sheds and then a closed building and then some storefronts, and then we're actually working now with a developer maybe to develop some more storefronts so that people can come to the market and some, like farmers, may never really want to progress too much beyond just being a vendor at the market and developing some other ancillary distribution channels to restaurants and other things like that. But we have other vendors, like this young man with his bakery here that actually came through our youth entrepreneurial program, the Biz Kids that we have in our city recreation department. And then he's been a vendor for 5 or 6 years now, and he's in the winter shed. He's looking for a storefront opportunity in another section of the city. So, markets have always been a place that is offers a different opportunities for vending. And again, we talked a little bit about some of this before with trying to degentrify the market, but we have refreshingly inexpensive as because they don't have packaging, they don't have transportation, and many times there aren't middlemen, so that even though you're buying the best and fresh and local product, it's not really, when you look at it, expensive in comparison to what it would cost you in another venue. Through the Market Snap program, we've been very fortunate that the Rochester market is, even with the old paper food stamps, that farmers there were very early on innovators in accepting food stamps and trying to be food stamp friendly. And we went through a period of some chaos when they originally went on the EBT system, but with the handheld ones, it didn't work well and whatever. But we're fortunate to have our friends group take on the challenge and actually now have, you can see their token booth in the photo there. It's a repurposed shipping container that they work out of now year round. Last year they did over $1 million in SNAP business, and we did another, I don't know, 250,000 or so in hardwired business on the market. So it's substantial, and it's substantial for not only providing great value for the customers and great products for the customers, but also providing customers base for our farmers and helping them to keep their businesses going. And then, of course, there are convenience and comfort amenities that are important too, and you do have to have adequate restrooms, and you do have to have a clean, safe environment, and you do have to have places that display the product nicely. So I'm not saying that it's not all about customer friendly. Also includes those sort of things. We spent altogether, it says 8.5 here with all the other costs associated with the project, was almost 10.5 million. Did a lot of different things, built 64 new sheds, 4 new restaurant kiosks, another new open shed that has 60 spots in it. And the thing that people comment on the most by far is that we added a whole 2 new banks of restrooms, and they love the new restrooms more than anything else. So it's those things. It points out it's important. Creature comforts are important. That's just a shot down in our new shed on a Saturday. And even in that shed, we have some diversity of spaces. The spaces that look out on the market on the windowed side are smaller. They're 9 by 10, and they have access to water and sinks and things like that, but they don't really have the ability to cook or do food prep. The spots on the back are bigger. We have several vendors who have added their own hoods and Ansel systems, and they're doing product preparation there as well as sales. And so far we've been very happy. I'd like to see more activity during the week, but we're working on building that. But the building's 100% leased, and of the vendors that are currently in there, a good portion of them would like more space if they could have it, and we have vendors that are interested in coming in. We started a few years ago a Veggie Valet too, that on Saturdays in season we have a group of young people actually from a job training program called Green Visions that are at the market and are available to customers can either leave their product with them while they're shopping and then come pick it up, or they actually leave it there, and then we have young people that will run it to their car for them. It's an idea I saw in San Francisco at the ferry terminal market, where they don't have any on-site parking or any access at all. So they have basically a curb cut in front of it where 5 or 6 cars can park. And if you do buy a lot of product and can't carry it back to your car, you leave it there, and then you pull up with your car and get your product. And we've done all kinds of, again, just looking at customer friendly and diversity, we've done everything. Last year we had a couple of weddings at the market. We do tend to have, and as most markets do if they're in urban areas, a lot of recent immigrants that come to the market and are used to shopping in an outdoor market. Excuse me. I need one of those cough buttons like the radio people have. In an outdoor market setting, so they're that and it adds to the interest and the diversity. The photo on the very right that's kind of bright there that you can't see too well is actually a memorial service that we did for one of our friends in the market who passed away, and he really wanted to have his memorial service at the market. So you can see we actually opened up the winter shed, and we had people outside. There was about 300 people that came to the service, and then we had long tables set up in the middle of the market building, and they actually did the repast dinner afterwards right inside the shed. So all these things we try within reason to accommodate folks if they want to do something different at the market, because every time you do something like that, it not only brings goodwill, but it also brings it's a newsworthy. The weddings, we got some pretty good coverage, news coverage and press coverage on, and again, and plus they're for social media, that stuff is the stuff of that you can just go crazy with on Facebook and other things. So I think that's coming down to my last slide there. I'd be glad to answer more questions. Hopefully, I tried to just show some of the things that we do at our market that help to make it customer friendly. Some of the things that I think make markets special and are going to have markets be able to continue even in this challenging retail food environment that we're all entering into, we need to give people reasons to come to the market, and we need to make it an experience. And no matter how big or how small I think a market is, there's things that we can do, there's things that vendors can do, and there's things that the Farmers Market Federation can help us with together to help markets to be successful in this changing environment. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm open for any questions.
Okay, we do have some questions. With all the activities that you put on it at the Rochester Public Market, how do you pay for all of these? What kinds of things do you do to cover the costs?
Well, the food truck rodeos, for instance, the trucks pay a fee to come in there. I mean, all the activities that we do, with the exception of the concerts, we actually make money on. The concerts, we break even. But again, they're seen as, I consider the money we put into them part of our marketing budget, and because it brings a different demographic and brings different folks to the market at other times. But the Flower City Days and the garage sales, and the garage sales for us have been, we'll have 100, we do them 18 of them, 19 of them in the summertime, and we charge folks $30 a week, and we'll have 100 vendors. And it's really just having somebody in the office and having a maintenance person there, and having the only advertising we do for it really is on site. We do a lot of social media, but we do actually a classified in the newspaper. The classifieds for garage sales are about the last gasp for classified ads, but people that are doing flea markets and garage sales still use those classifieds. And we should do Craigslist too, I suppose. But anyhow, they're all, for those, we average 100 vendors, we make $3,000. Our expenses are probably less than 1,000. So they're revenue generators, and some of them are big revenue generators that help us offset the costs of the normal market operations. Our market is run by the city, but it runs under an enterprise fund, which is a separate budget. That's it's so that the way the charter reads, it's supposed to cover its operation fee. The fees and license fees cover the operating costs in the market, and for the most part they do. But we try to keep it so that it's not like we're making a lot of money. We do have some money that goes into a fund balance that helps us to pay for some of the renovations and other things that we do. But most of those were grant and other funded. But again, except for the concerts, most of the stuff we do, we actually make money on. We also do, and I should mention, we do private site rentals too, that we're limited because it's tough for us to do them on Saturday night, which is popular, but by the time the market's done and we clean up, it's tough to do anything on Saturday. But last year we had 5 or 6 different groups that rented the markets. On a Friday night we hit a craft cocktail revival. For the last few years we've done a craft beer festival that is put on by a private person, and we have a fee that's associated with the site rental. But again, all those things help us to hopefully keep the fees and the license fees affordable for our normal vendors. And okay, I guess that's enough.
Okay. You talked about your Bike to the Market program, and there was a lot of curiosity about how are people carrying their purchases home. It makes, I think, purchasing maybe limited, or how do you address that?
Oh, you'd be amazed what people can, dedicated bikers that ride year round, a lot of them, they have saddlebags, they have all kinds of boxes on bike carriers on the back of the bikes. They, believe it or not, they can get a lot of stuff on a bike. I've seen people take more on a bike than I would take in my car. So they're innovative.
Okay. Is your market subsidized since you are affiliated with the city?
I talked a little bit about it before. Our revenues cover our operating expenses, so they cover a portion of my salary because I do some other things for the city besides, but they cover our staff on site, and they cover our maintenance, they cover the security that we use and snow plowing, and then other departments back charge our department for for PR, we use the city's communications department, we use the city's law department, and some of them, do what we call a administrative chargeback. But so our fees cover and our revenue, not just our fees, not just our market fees, but that and our special events. And I talked a little bit about, we get some assessments from properties that are adjacent to the market. Those cover our operating expenses. We do get some general fund support, some taxpayer support to help pay back bonds for in the last several years, last 20 years, we've done probably $20 million worth of renovation projects. And the market fee schedule was never set up so that we could cover those kinds of expenses. So there is some general fund support to help pay back some of the bonds and other capital mechanisms that we use to fund those improvements.
Okay, and a little bit about your market itself. How many vendors do you usually have on an average Saturday?
In peak season, 325. We're open year round. In the wintertime, it depends. If it's not too severe, we'll have, on a Saturday, we'll have, the full inside, which is 64 vendors, and we'll have 80 to 100 outside in the wintertime. So, it varies with the season. The fees also vary with the seasons. Especially the daily rates are different. We have a winter lease and a seasonal lease and some other things. But we just added 66 new spots, outdoor spots last summer that we have most of them rented. We are reserving 8 of those for local entrepreneurs that can come one time free if they're a City of Rochester resident that have a business and they still have to go through the whole process of making sure that they do an application and have all the proper licenses and stuff, but they can come one time free. And we're reserving some spots for them to be there. The city's doing a lot to try to help city-based entrepreneurs make their businesses successful. We have a whole Kiva loan program and things, and so we're working closely with them on some of those spaces.
Okay, I think we have one last question. Obviously, you have a pretty big budget. You have a big market. You're able to do a lot of different things all at once. If you were a small market, what would be the one piece of advice you would give them to try to make their market more customer friendly? What should they look at first?
Well, restrooms.
That is important.
Restrooms are important. I think restrooms are more important than parking, but I think working on making sure that people have a unique experience of some sort when they come to your market. You don't have to be a big market to have an entertainment or to have street performers. You don't have to be a big market to do food demos. You don't have to be a big market to have even just to have a information tent with folks that are outgoing and cheerful and can talk a little bit about the products that the different vendors at the market have and some of the stories of some of the vendors. All those things add. People are really, I think, looking for that human interaction, and moreover, all the time in life. They spend so much time online and so much time in non-direct communication that I think they really savor the moments when they can come out and really experience something. So that's, again, I probably overuse that word, but experience is very important. And I think the experience and the joy and the fun that people have coming to markets will hopefully keep us viable and lead to more sales for our vendors. But again, I say the vendors have to do their part too. It's not all on the market. If you have somebody that doesn't have good product, doesn't do a good display, doesn't present themselves in a way that is as appealing and interesting, your market's not going to be successful. So hopefully that helped. I enjoyed doing this today, and it's more fun to do it live, but hopefully it helped everyone.
Yeah, I think you gave everyone an awful lot to think about, whether we're big or small. You had ideas for everybody in there. A lot of things to think about, all the different key areas you talked about to make your market customer friendly. I think a lot of us would probably not would have thought of some of those things. So we thank you for that. And I thank everyone for participating. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be archiving this webinar on our website, probably by at least early next week. So if you want to go back and revisit this, it'll be there for you to do so. So again, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jim. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and feel free that ucpmarket@cityofrochester.gov. If you have other questions or comments, feel free to send them there. Evan, who's our, like I said, Lowenstein, loves getting comments and questions, and he'd love to respond to you and try to help you with individual issues that you might have or ideas. So thank you, and happy Friday.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Bye, everyone.
Bye.